Hey everyone, feeper here with another video for you. So, I'm finally full best in slot for my warrior, finally finished the raid tier, and now that I'm finished, I wanted to make a video sort of talking about how I think the raid tier compares to some of the ones we've had in the past, what I think about it in like a general broad scope, and what I think about it in terms of tanking specifically. I want to kind of go through each fight and break them down, compare them to past fights, and then sort of break down the whole tier as a whole as like the first of the 3 tiers for this expansion and compare them like that to the ones in Stormblood. So here we go. So overall, I think turn 1 is pretty good. The first phase of the fight is kind of fine, like it's nothing too crazy. I do like how after he does Paradise Regained, it sort of swaps the mechanics from the first phase. You know, tanks, instead of spreading, they have to stack. You pass the healer debuff to the DPS instead of the tanks, things like that. I think that's really cool. I kind of wish they did more with the whole swapping of the mechanics thing. I think that could definitely be explored in an interesting way, but you know, it's for the first fight, you don't want to go too crazy with it. The last 2 dimensional shifts are also really fun. I like the meteors falling down and having to bait the spinny circle line things around. The first dimensional shift I think is kind of dumb. I don't know, it's just like stuff we've already seen. I don't know, it's just kind of boring. The cutscene, you know, speaking of boring, the cutscene is also super boring. I don't know why they kept it in for Savage. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're gonna have a cutscene like that that's purely for story, just leave it in the normal mode and then just take it out in Savage. Like, in Halicarnassus, there was an entire phase of you, and for those of you who didn't play for the first tier of Stormblood, there was the 3rd boss fight in the normal mode. Had this entire phase where you would enter a portal and like go through this maze where you would walk off a platform and then it would automatically direct you in an area, and you had to like figure out the fastest way to get there. And the first like 10 people, or 10, oh my god, the first like 3 or 4 people they got through got a damage buff. That phase was completely omitted in Savage. Like, why not just do it with the cutscene? If you want to watch the cutscene, either play the normal mode or just go on YouTube. Like, it's not, I don't know. I think it's dumb. I know it would like change buff timings and things, but like, it's the first fight of the freaking tier. Who cares? You know, just get rid of it. Other than that though, you know, for the first fight of the tier, I think it's pretty good. It's way better than Outright, or whatever that stupid dragon's name was. That dragon was just the dumbest thing ever. Tanking wise, you only really have like that one back-to-back section where you have the tank beams, and then you have the tank buster where you either immunity or swap, and then the healers have to pass you the debuff. Then you have that whole sort of section right there where you're probably going to be out of like everything, and then after that you don't really have to do anything mitigation wise except AoE with like reprisal or, you know, Divine Veil or whatever you have. So it's fine. Again, the swapping of the mechanics for Paradise Regained I think is a lot of fun, and I would really like to see them sort of expand on that idea more. Okay, so turn 2 is next. Turn 2 is great. I really like turn 2. There's like no downtime in the fight at all. There's no cutscenes. There's no ad phase. Not that ad phases are boring, but in this game they generally tend to be. It's just, you know, all action start to finish. The tank busters are kind of sneaky. They can be sneaky, and they're heavy hitting, which I think is nice. They're going to require you to pop more than just one cooldown until you kind of get geared. The real selling point of this entire fight, though, is the spell and waiting mechanic. That mechanic is so cool. I really want to see them do more with that. Like, imagine if they had spell and waiting where he would like cast the tank buster, and then the tank buster would go off at a certain amount of time later. And then, you know, that could be cool. That could be interesting. I think there's a lot of interesting, unique things that they could do with that mechanic, and I really hope they don't just leave it for this one fight or just kind of recycle the exact same things in a later fight in the tier. I hope they keep doing more with that. That would be great. You actually have to position this boss as well. You got to keep it in the middle during the whole, what is it, like where you spread out and everyone has to go into one of the 8 things. Speaking of those, I wonder if they ever do mechanics like that, if they'll ever have it be, first off, an odd number. That would just be interesting, I guess. I don't know. I guess it wouldn't really, but if they had one where it was like an odd number, but they weren't so, because it's very clear that the way Square imagines these fights going is 2 tanks that are melee, obviously, 2 melee DPS, 2 range DPS, and then the 2 healers are range, because there's 4 range spots and there's 4 melee spots. I wonder if they'll ever do one where there's more than 4 ranged, or more than, I guess range wouldn't make sense, but more than 4 melee, because if I feel like it kind of limits them if they ever want to add like a melee healer or something, you know, like, or a melee magic class, then if they're supposed to be like, if it's so strict, it has to be the melee spots are here and the range spots are farther away, then parties who bring like a bard, a melee or a ranged magical, or a melee magical, and then two melee physical, you know, I guess they're screwed. Like someone's gonna lose out on uptime. But then I guess if you're gonna bring those two, I guess you just wouldn't have two melee physical and one magic physical. Or if you had like a physical healer, or not a physical healer, like a melee healer, I guess you would counteract that with an extra range DPS. But like, not everyone's gonna want to do that. So I don't know. I just wonder if you know, the way that they designed this mechanic is telling of the fact that they're never going to do something like that. Just kind of food for thought. But again, I love the fight. The only thing I don't like is the hands. I don't really think they're that cool. Like, I don't know. They're just kind of, one pushes you off and one you just run away from. I just kind of just like, whatever, dude. I don't know. But overall, it's infinitely better than Catastrophe. 2 is arguably, no, it's definitely my second favorite fight. I'll get to my favorite fight, which is probably pretty obvious. But yeah, 2's great. Oh, and a quick edit here. I wonder if they ever would do something where the spell and waiting affects the player. So if you get hit with a debuff, your next, maybe it only affects the healers or something, but your next cast of an ability doesn't go off for X amount of time. So then, but then maybe there's a big burst of healing that needs to be done immediately at a certain time. Like what if they did, okay, here we go. So what if they did something like Charybdis, where everyone gets dropped down the 1 HP, and then there's immediately, before you can actually heal in time, there's immediately more damage that kills everyone, but he does a spell and waiting mechanic. So healers get hit by this, and they have to like cast 3 or 6 AoE heals, and then they're delayed to go off like right when that Charybdis thing happens. I don't know, that could be cool. I'm just saying, I'm throwing out ideas. I hope they do it. Something like that could be fun. All right, now on to big boy Leviathan, Daddy Leviathan, the man, the myth, the legend. So I like Leviathan. I know a lot of people don't, and I understand why. I think his music sucks, but I honestly don't mind the fight too much. Now, I don't like that he doesn't have any positionals. I don't like that you can't move him at all. I think that's kind of lame. Oh, and the fact that Smokers is just like so boring for tanks. But anyways, besides those two things, the tank busters are kind of involved. You know, they hit harder. You got to swap them. You can't just like accidentally not swap or immunity in the hope they like mitigate through it. Won't happen because of the debuff. So that's fun. Keeps you on your toes. There's a lot of raid-wide damage to mitigate as well. Things like the tanks have to have first and second aggro. I like those sorts of things. At least aggro kind of matters in that scenario, like a little bit. I like how after refreshing sip, he sort of adds new things to all his mechanics, like the double, what are they called? The double waves that knock people off and kill you. It sort of feels like the fight evolves over time, and he gets stronger as the fight progresses. I like fights that do things like that, as opposed to stagnating or getting weaker, quote unquote, as the fight goes on. I like how it sort of evolves. Now, compared to the third fight in the first tier from Stormblood, Halicarnassus, Leviathan doesn't even hold a candle. Like, Halicarnassus is one of the greatest, like, just the best fights they've done. That fight was so much fun. But regardless, Leviathan's okay. I know why people don't like him. I like him. I kind of wish they brought in more new stuff for Leviathan. You kind of just rehashed and reimagined a bunch of older mechanics. You know, nothing super crazy, but he is harder than 2, which is good because he's the third fight. So, you know, overall, I give him a pass. I like him. I like Daddy Leviathan, Daddy Levi. All right, so now on to my favorite fight of the tier, Titan, the Ultra Chad of the tier. So, Titan's dope. Like, just end of story, Titan's dope. First phase has a lot going on, kind of for everyone. I think it's really well designed. The difference between car and arms is cool. I wish the gap in time didn't fluctuate, because it's hard to line up a consistent rotation in that first part of the fight, and then subsequently the rest of the fight, because you're kind of like, well, if he does arms, my rotation changes. If he does car, my rotation changes. So I kind of wish that wasn't a factor. You know, you can't turn your brain off. There's a lot of positioning. The crumbling down, I think, is a bit of a hairy situation, because there's no consistent way to get slow rocks, or to get like the third set of rocks that explode last. And there is a way to obviously do like the fast rocks and not get hit by any of them, but I think a lot of people are going to struggle with that just because the timing is weird because you really have to know how server ticks work. So I wonder if there's, I don't know, something about that I think needs to be thought over again from a design perspective. It just doesn't seem to coincide with how neat everything else the Square does is. But then after you get to the first phase, you have Big Titan, and if they're gonna do these big bosses that have no positionals and stand in one spot at the edge of the arena, Big Titan is how you do it. Just straight up. The coolest thing in this fight is the elevating platforms. I really want them to do more with this. I think it's so much fun because so many of the arenas we have are just squares. And if you touch the edge, you die or you fall off. Or circles. And if you touch the edge or die, you fall off. Like, it's either a square or a circle, and it's just varying sizes. Or I guess Hallie was a rectangle, but you get the idea. They're all, like, we don't have any, like, there's no ones that are just like rooms that are irregular shapes and are weird. You know what I mean? Or some sort of strange, like, what if one was like an X, like the arena was an X? That could be cool. I feel like there'd be a lot of interesting things they could do with that. And then of course the arena gets destroyed, it gets rebuilt. What if the players had to rebuild the arena? That could be fun. I don't know. I think they need to explore that more because a lot of the arenas are just very stale and they focus on the mechanics of the boss. I would like the room to have more of an impact on the fight than they do currently. But I think they're heading sort of in that direction, taking the right steps in that direction. Compared to X-Death from Stormblood, the final fight of the first tier, Titan is just infinitely better. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. One thing I didn't like from Stormblood were the sort of like door bosses where you had to get the boss to a certain percent and then he would transform and then that was your new checkpoint. I thought that was dumb. I was worried when I first saw the patch notes and saw that Titan, his timer was longer, and I was like, oh, they're doing it again, please no. But I like, even though it can be annoying to wipe at the end and then have to go through the first phase of Titan again, the phase change is so short and it doesn't, it makes the first phase not feel like a door boss that you just have to get through to get to the real fight. It feels like part of the fight, which I think is good. The second and third phases are really awesome. As I've pretty much said, you know, the whole merry-go-round thing is cool. Again, I would like to see more things like that. I think that's a lot of fun. I think swapping the DPS and the tanks from orange to yellow is really cool. There's a lot of just mitigation tanks have to do personally and for the raid there, which is nice. Makes you have to think the tanks have to be first and second aggro again, which I like. Just, they're, you know, I mean, it's the hardest fight of the tier, right? So they're going to kind of pull out more of the stops, but I think they did it well, you know, because it's fun. It's not like sort of bullshit, stupid mechanics that are hard just because they hit really hard or they're like really big AoEs. It's like actual, you have to know how this mechanic functions and plan accordingly. It's not just like inflated numbers, you know? So I think that's good. As I said before, the only thing I don't like about this fight is depending on if you get cars or arms first, lining up the rest of your rotation can get kind of funky. And I guess if you're stuck in the south group and for the second elevates with the healer jails, I guess you're stuck in the south group and then you get blue, like you're kind of just fucked. If you're a melee, like you're kind of just like, well, I'll just tomahawk for 10 GCDs, like you're kind of just screwed. That doesn't really feel great, but then again, it's whatever. Like, I don't know, if you really want to go for parse runs, then you figure out a way so that that person who's trying to go for the parse run doesn't have to lose up times. It doesn't really matter. But again, I wonder if that was maybe like a slight design overlook, you know, oversight. I don't know, maybe not. But overall, Titan's sick. Overall, the tier feels very cohesive. You know, each fight feels like it gets harder than the last, but in a fair way. And things that you learned in the first fight help you in the second. You know, a lot of the tank busters are hit once, hit twice, and that carries on through all of them except for Titan where it's hit 3 times. So it's things like that. I think those are good design choices. It's, you know, it's nothing like where you had Phantom Train and then you had the painting boy after him, and it was like, well, this is stupid. This one is like 5 times harder than 2, or I guess it was 5 and 6, right? But whatever. Anyways, that was dumb. Please don't ever do that again, Square. But you know, overall, it's really great. I think if Square can sort of keep upping the difficulty, if 5 can be harder than 1 and 2, that'd be good. If 6 can be harder than 2 and 3, and then 7 harder than 3 and 4, then 8 harder than all of them, I think that would be a really good thing that they should aim for. That's kind of what I want. I don't know if they'll actually do that. They might just be like 5 is harder than 1, but easier than 2, 3, 4. I don't know. Anyways, overall, I like the raid tier a lot, except for 1. 1's boring. Fuck the cutscene. So that's going to be a wrap for this one. In the meantime, you know, we got Alex coming out, Ultimate Alexander coming out in 2 weeks, which is going to be friggin' sick. I'm so excited to go forward and back and forward and back. It's going to be awesome. Oh my god, it's going to be sick. Anyways, I'm too excited. I want to go play Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitch. I stream over at twitch.tv/feeper7. Since Modern Warfare just released, my friends and I have been playing it. I'll probably be playing that for like a little bit. But don't worry, once 5.1 drops, I'm going to be hitting that hard and then still playing WoW Classic. So, yeah, there's tons of cool stuff coming over this way from the YouTube channel and the YouTube channel over there. So, keep a lookout for that stuff. Drop a like for this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to subscribe. I appreciate it. Thank you for the love, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.